Welcome to Behind the Badge with your special guest, Lieutenant Williams, your news source for all things police in the city of Fond du Lac.
This is KFIZ today. It's Friday, the first Friday of November, already to the 11th month of the year. My goodness. And this time spot always reserved for the Fond du Lac Police Department Behind the Badge. Lieutenant Ryan Williams. Can you believe it? We're to November already on the calendar.
I think it's crazy, but it does make sense now that I enter this radio station. I see toys everywhere.
Yes, we just had the annual Halloween party, and everything go fine with your guys wise, trick or treat wise, no issues. People were behaved. They didn't run any children over. Everything was good on that front.
No, all normal. Your normal types of calls, but I think overall trick or treating went very well. We also had participated in a couple of community events. We participated in the Halloweeny celebration, which was I believe that's the Boys and Girls Club. We also did a trunk and treat. It's like basically
trunk or treat, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was at Grace Christian Church. So we were out there in the community, handing out candy, and I think we had the radar toss out at the Halloween event, which I think that's about the third or fourth year of that. That event's been going pretty well.
Big brothers, big sisters.
Big brothers, big sisters. What did I say?
Boys and girls.
Easy.
I do the same thing.
Yes.
I do the same thing.
They're gonna be mad at me now.
No, that's why I wanted to correct it. They're great people over there. They join us on here. That's good. They're good to go. Do you dress up in costume, or I suppose you get to play police officer?
You know what I did is I took the weekend off. But
there you go.
But I did have some of our CSOs manning those.
Once in a while, McGruff show up?
Once in a while, we'll get it out. We didn't get it out this time. We had a little bit of low staffing. McGruff, he gets preoccupied with, he's a popular guy.
He is.
So it's hard to get him out at everything. But maybe possibly tomorrow we might be able to get McGruff out at, I think there's an event coming up here. So I forgot the name of it, but
that's all right.
I think there's going to be a Halloween event. Last week. So
you were going to say something. I interrupted you. You were going to say something about every once in a while or something to the effect when we were talking about costumes.
Every once in a while, yeah, I'll make, McGruff will make his way out there and make his appearances and stuff like that. So, you got to find, McGruff's got to be in the right mood and stuff.
That's all right. I understand that. I'm the same way. So, as we noted, we're in November, and of course, winter is just around the corner. Actually, had a little bit of light snow earlier this week, and our main topic for today: winter parking.
Yes, we seem to talk about parking a lot. Maybe because it's something that I deal with a lot, but even we talk about the event, the Halloween event, and I like to look at the scanner pages and stuff, and you see a lot of people mad because one of the scanner pages mentioned that there was 4 cars that were towed because of that event.
I did see that.
And there was a lot of upheaval about, well, you didn't advertise and you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Well, for that event, there was advertisement for it, and there were signs posted, they're temporary signs posted downtown at all those parking spots. And obviously the person, whether they didn't see him or they ignored him or whatever. And on top of that, we also try to make contact with the person too. So we can run the person's license plate, and sometimes we can find a phone number and try to make contact with them. If all that fails, then we finally tow the vehicles. It's not like we just yank these vehicles without, just for no reason at all. We really try to make contact. It's the same thing for the farmers market and all specialty events downtown. We go through great lengths to try to find the owners and have them move them, so that we don't have to tow them, because we don't want to tow them either. It's actually a bit of a hassle on our part too. We just want the vehicles to be moved. It's unsafe. They're like, well, why can't they just do the festival around these vehicles? It's unsafe.
Right.
We know that through events like Waukesha, the parade and stuff like that we can't have these vehicles down there because there could be things in them, or there could be people in them, or that vehicle could start moving at any point. And that could cause danger to other people. So I hope that's not the case, and we're sure it's probably just a vehicle parked there, but you can never be too careful on those things. So with that long lead-in comes winter parking, and this is probably, when I managed parking tickets, was probably the most disputed thing that we ever got was if you got a winter parking ticket. And so I'm going to read, we have these wonderful warnings that we were going to start plastering the city with, but this is basically winter parking, and I think it's explained pretty well. So Parking from November 15th through March 15th is restricted between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. On even numbered days, starting at 8 p.m., parking is restricted to the even side of the street only. The same applies for odd numbered days. No permits are required. Any metered area is still restricted to 60 minutes between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. This policy overrides all other on-street parking restrictions in place on any street where parking is allowed. So there's a lot to digest there, but let's break it down. Number one is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is basically when people are moving around during the day. We are not enforcing winter parking ordinance. So that is your time. You have 12 hours of that time to eventually get that car to move over to the right side of the street. So people say, well, I didn't have time, you didn't have time. You have 12 hours. You have 12 hours that we are not enforcing winter parking ordinances. Now, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., which is when most people are sleeping, not that whole time, I hope. I mean, hey, good luck to you if you are. But that is when we'll be enforcing winter parking ordinance. And how you do it is by the day when winter parking started. So 8 p.m., whatever day it is at 8 p.m., that is when winter parking would start. So if it was an odd day, so if it's like November 3rd, you park on the odd side of the street. And then the number one complaint is, well, how do I know what the odd side of the street is? It goes by the house numbers. So in the city of Fond du Lac, maybe some people don't know this, but in the city of Fond du Lac, all of the houses on the west side of the street and the south side of the street are even numbered. And all the houses on the east and the north are odd numbered.
You mentioned that last year. I never knew that. As someone who grew up in this town, that was the first time I heard that when you mentioned this on the radio last year. I had no idea.
So one way to remember that, if you want to just go by some easy addresses, so I always, the address of the police department is 126 North Main Street. So it's 126 North Main. 126 is an even number, and that is on the west side of the street. A really easy one for the east and west is, of course I gotta go by Quick Trips, right? The Quick Trip on South Main, the address is 456 South Main Street. So 456 South Main, that Quick Trip is on the west side of the street. Now, if you're doing north and south, you can do your own examples of these, but the jail is at 63 Western Avenue. If you know where the jail is located, it's on the north side of Western Avenue. So there's just some things like that you can kind of go by and kind of remember what side of the street you're on. So you can generally figure out north, south, east, west. If there's a question, just go by the house number. Now most people, not all, but most people will park in the general facility of their own house. So it becomes pretty easy with house numbers because you probably know what your own house number is. So what we do is we try to do a campaign as far as getting the word out about winter ordinance parking. And we do that by, number one, talking about it on the radio. There'll be some Facebook posts and reminders out there. And you'll also have officers eventually here going out and putting these green cards on cars that are not in compliance. And I think some of the streets that are not in compliance the most are the ones where there's the no parking, which is limited by sign. So some of the streets I think of are like Ellis Street. There's no parking on one side of. There's a couple of other streets that there's a lot of parking on them, but you can only park on one side of the street. And those are the ones where probably the most confusion might be, because you're trying to obey the sign, but during winter ordinance you don't obey that sign. You actually just obey the winter ordinance rules. So there is some confusion there, and we try to get out and placard those areas and make sure people know where to park. We're not here to try to make any money off this. The winter ordinance does not go into my paycheck or anything like that.
There's no quota.
No
it's like,
quota.
okay, we gotta write X number of tickets each month.
No, and the reason why we do that is for snow. And a lot of people will be like, well, there's no snow. There's no snow, so I should be able to park there. The problem is when there is snow. And if we don't have people develop a pattern before there's snow, it's too late.
Right.
And now we have plow truck drivers that can't plow people out because they can't get down streets because people are parked on the wrong side of the road. And then they call us and then you get your vehicle towed, which is a lot more expensive, right? Than to just simply move your car from one side of the street or the other. So, I mean, that's basically what the ordinance is about. By probably the later side of mid-November, so right around the holidays, like probably after Thanksgiving, then we're probably going to be enforcing this pretty hardcore. So maybe enforce before that, we'll get the word out, but it's more of a getting the word out before that. But you know, on certain streets that we know that we've warned and there's still violations, we may go into enforcement action on those streets. But by and far, it's about compliance first, and then we have to write the tickets. So.
When it gets to the point where you have to tow, where is the vehicle towed, and what is that process like to get the vehicle back?
So our for winter ordinance, that's a good question actually, because there's a lot that depends on that. If you're in violation of winter ordinance and the car needs to be moved right now because of a plowing thing, that vehicle will get towed to Wayland's in town here. It could get towed to other places depending on certain things. But once again, we're going to try to get a hold of that owner there. Now, let's say this is another thing that winter ordinance does is we really find out where all the abandoned vehicles are in the city. So all of a sudden, you got these vehicles that are parked and there's a huge snowbank formed around them, and we find out, oh yeah, that car has not moved in a really long time. So that car then might get ticketed for being an abandoned vehicle,
Right.
and that vehicle will get towed to Trans-American Towing, which is just outside of town.
Okay.
But once again, once that happens, we try to make contact with the registered owner. There's a process that's regulated by state statute we have to go through, and once we do tow it, we do send a certified letter to the registered owner as well as anyone that would have a lien on that vehicle, letting them know where their vehicle is. So there's a lot that we go through for towing, but yeah, depending on what it is, if it's an emergency, we're just gonna tow that now. Usually we'll tow it to Wayland, so it'll be over at their lot. But otherwise, it could be at like Trans-American Towing. It could be at a different tow company. Let's say we get a hold of the owner and they're like, I have no way to move this, but can you have this tow company tow it? That's fine. We just need the vehicle moved. So there's a lot that can go into play. But November 15th is the day to remember. November 15th is when winter ordinance goes into effect. So know the ordinance, get to know it very well. And you know, it's really only a couple months. It does go relatively fast, but the best thing to do is just not park on the street if you can at all avoid it. I know some people can't. You're just going to have to rotate it from one side of the street to the other.
Excellent information. I think you explained it very well, and hopefully people were listening, so we don't have to write many tickets this year and or have to tow too many people for winter parking. This is Behind the Badge, KFIZ Today.